walk around this table here. Just take a look at everything.
Okay.
Everything laying around here, with the exception of that screwdriver, all of these devices came about because there was patient injury at one time or another, okay, through the years. So everything here came about because of a patient injury. Inspiratory, expiratory valves being made this way. You cannot switch them. And if you look inside, they're tubes within tubes, okay? Not being able to switch them, you're not running the gas the wrong way out of your absorber canister, okay? The spiral med right here. Before they had volume measurement, they would never know if they were having a reverse flow or not unless the heart rate was wrong because they didn't have monitors measuring CO2 back then, okay? This is just a positive expiratory repeat valve, old style. Last defense on the machine against hypoxia is the O2 sensor, other than y'all. And as you walk on over here, DISS, standardization for fittings, because I'm sure you all heard about the Volt tank, being switched over to N2O, killing a few patients. So now, with the DISS fittings, they make sure that doesn't happen. Pressure regulators, make sure you got the backup proper cylinder. Pin configuration on yokes to make sure you can't put the wrong cylinder on. Flow meters that you all are very familiar with. Remember this one, oxygen ratio controller, ORC. Oxygen ratio controller. This is your O2 N2O proportioning device. Okay? Flow control valves. It's up to you to turn the right ones on. Okay? This is your O2 N2O right there underneath your flow meters. Check valves to make sure gas doesn't escape out to ambient. If you don't have a cylinder, this is a cylinder. You also have a pipeline check valve. If you lose your pipeline pressure, you've got a check valve there making sure your cylinder pressure doesn't flow out of the machine. Come on over here. This is just active scavenging. This works the same way, primarily the same way as your open reservoirs that you're also used to now. Okay, you just have a positive and a negative valve that allow free breathing from the patient if you don't have suction on or have too much suction on. This is your ventilator relief diaphragm. This gives you the positive expiratory pressure of 3, so with ascending bellows, at very low flows, you'll get a full rise out of your bellows when you keep them up. It is because of this adjustable valve here. This, of course, is your ventilator assembly. Now, those that work here at Northwestern, we're used to coming in about once every 3 months, and we can't ventilate a very large amount of volume. That's because I worked on your machines. There's 2 things you need to check. If you're going to be doing more than 600, 800 milliliters of volume, first thing here, I always set our inspiratory pressure limit, our pressure controller. This actually takes 55 PSI. When we dial that down, this is your drive gas for your bellows. Comes straight here. That's what pushes your bellows down. Your bellows, on the inside of your bellows, you actually have your patient gas that you're mixing. It's going through the breathing system. When you put that manual selector on Narcomed GS in auto mode, everything in your breathing system is now being shared with the inside of your bellows. You use 100% O2 to actually drive your bellows down for that patient breath. You're not able to drive it down and you're hearing a fluttering sound in your machine. It is your inspiratory pressure limit controller. I have it set on 30 sonometers. You'll want to turn that up to 50, 80, whatever you need. I always put these at 30 because I consider that a safe mode. No accidental turning on a vent and all of a sudden a hard breath's being delivered. And that is why I do that. Then of course the vaporizer. I'm sure you all are very familiar with that. And you just dial in your concentrations. It uses a wick system. It uses a cam system. When they're off, oxygen actually gets delivered through that vaporizer through the back. It just never touches agent. By turning it on, you open up a cam. It allows it to go down and hit the wick. You have a thermocoupler basically in there, and all it is a piece of brass and a cone. As it cools, it shrinks. As it heats up, it spreads out, thereby trying to keep your concentration stable, because you will get cooling with a high flow through your vape. And that's pretty much it. You have O2, N2O, and medical air coming out of your wall or your E-cylinders. They go into your anesthesia machine at approximately 50 PSI. You try to run a range of 45 to 53. When the comes into your machine, the very first device, and you're going to want to remember this one, this will be on your quiz, you'll run into an oxygen failure protection device. All it is it works on the diaphragm similar to the oxygen ratio controller. You have pressure on one side hitting this diaphragm, keeping it open, allowing N2O and air to flow. When you lose your oxygen pressure, those diaphragms slow, and you start losing all your other gases as well on the older machines. The newer ones, the Apollos, Fabia series, they actually only have an OFPD for the nitrous. That way, if you lose oxygen, you'll lose your nitrous, but you'll still have your medical air. Okay? So first failure device on your anesthesia machine to protect against hypoxia is your oxygen failure protection device. Second protection device is your oxygen ratio controller, or ORC, I'm sorry. And that is your proportioning device for the amount of nitrous you're delivering with your oxygen. So those are the two, OFPD, ORC. Now you're going to be asked, well, when does all this stop flowing? On the Narcomed GS anesthesia machine, the old series, 36 PSI, you will get an alarm letting you know you're losing your O2. On the newer ones, they do not alarm until you hit 16 PSI. So there's difference there. Okay, as we go down, the very last protection before it comes to y'all is your O2 sensor. Now this O2 sensor, nice thing about the newer machines, they tell you, remove O2 sensor and expose to room air for 2 minutes. The same for the Narcomeds, but they don't tell you that. Really, 2 minutes. It needs to be done for 2 minutes. You got to let it just cool to ambient. Otherwise, your readings will be a little off. Nowadays, it's not so much of an issue because you got your backup O2 reading here. And very few of y'all even pay attention to the one on the machine, you know, because you're always looking at your monitors. But 2 minutes. Now, that being done, y'all are the last defense against hypoxia. Oxygen ratio controllers, that proportioning device, has a specification of 21 to 28% on the Narcomed, and actually runs a 21 to a 34% on the newer machines. Now, all electronics and all mechanics always have a 5 to 10% acceptable tolerance. Okay, so what if oxygen ratio controller is in that 5%, O2 sensors in that 5%, your medical gas is in that 5%. We start getting 5% here and there. When we're dealing with 2-3 percentage points, you can get to a dangerous level if everything's going south. So that's where y'all come in. You're watching your CO2, you're watching things. Because nothing is fail-safe. All mechanical and electronic things break, period. They all do. With proper maintenance, we can limit those breakdowns, try to make them non-existent so you don't even see them, so they're taken care of during preventive maintenance. But as we all know, things are going to fail at the most inopportune times. Anybody who use this machine have any questions about this machine? I've had a lot of people through here today who said, oh, well, we get leak tests and whatnot. Anybody use this in this group, this particular machine? How about the Apollos? Anybody use the Apollos? Okay. Well, I was just going to give you a couple of leak check tips, but if you don't use them, don't worry about it. Okay. That's it. That simple.